Okay, this is what it says here in their video. And that they all married each other. Go back a bit. Go back a bit further. They're all related. Yes, that's true. But here's where they make a mistake. How is Cain's wife explained? Where did she come from? The answer is very simple. Cain's wife was his sister. Yes, you heard right, his sister. And not only that, all the children of Adam and Eve married each other. Baloney. Okay, they all married their brothers and sisters. Baloney. Okay, not in this Brita, not in this Genesis account. Okay. Now where are we again? Nope. Further down. Genesis 4. So he's banished, and in between that conversation it does not say that that Adam and Eve got together and had another child. Okay. It wasn't until after he'd gone. And Cain left the presence of the Lord and settled in the land of the nomads, other wanderers, right, east of Eden. So he's in the land of Nod, somewhere else. And Cain took a wife. In other words, he found a wife and he did the wild thing with her. Okay, here's the proof. She became pregnant and gave birth to Enoch. And Cain started a village and called it after his son Enoch. And to Enoch was born Irad, and to Irad was born Mehujael, and Mehujael was born Methushael, and to Methushael was born Lamech. Okay, so it's not talking about other sons and daughters that he took his sister with him. Okay, so it's a lot of baloney. Okay, and then it goes on about the descendants, Lamech, and probably Cain was killed by Lamech by accident, and this is in your Lost Gospels, that he went hunting with somebody else and he shot Cain and killed him by accident, and he also kills a young guy. Okay, here it says it here. Listen to me, listen to my voice, my wives, my woman, the woman of Lamech. Listen to my sayings, pay attention, for I have killed a husband in my bigamy, okay, and a young boy in my lechery. So he's killed somebody's husband or fiance to be. Okay, he's trying to have two or more wives. He's a bigamist, the first bigamist, and a young boy in my lechery. So he's taken these two women off of somebody else. Okay, they're promised to somebody else. Made them his woman, his wives. Okay, and it says, for Cain is repaid in vengeance sevenfold, 7 times 70, and Lamech, if somebody kills him because he killed Cain, 70 times 7. So there is possibly the proof that he killed Cain in a hunting accident or something by accident, or somebody else killed him. Okay, but in your Gnostic Gospels, somewhere in there, 1 or 2, I think it might be 2, that he fired an arrow and he killed Cain by accident. And then Adam took his wife Eve again. In other words, he knew her, he took her. See, he took. That's what it's meaning there. Cain took a wife. Adam had intercourse with Eve. That's basically what it means. Okay? He knew her and he had sex with her. Yeah? It's meaning he knew her sexually. And Adam took his wife again, and she became pregnant and gave birth, and she called his name Seth. In the footnotes, 425 literal Aramaic word she'et, instead or in place of, replacement for Abel that was killed by Cain, because God gave her another offspring, or a son, in place of Abel who was killed by Cain. And to Seth also was born a son, and he called his name Enosh. Thereafter they were called after the name of the Lord. Okay, so maybe this name here is written wrong when translated, because here it says Enosh. Simple error. The man is like 70 or pretty much 60 or 70 at the time. Okay, getting old, and he probably made that simple mistake. You'd have to look in his other translation to see if he actually put Enoch or Enosh. Okay, these things happen. He's not deliberately doing that, it's just something that happens, right? You might put 2 T's, it might say sit, or something like that by accident. Okay, so yeah, go easy on him there. Okay, so Adam took his wife again, and she became pregnant and gave birth, and she called his name Seth, or Shehet, because God gave her another offspring in his place of Abel, who was killed by Cain. And to Seth also was born a son, and that was his heir, H-E-I-R, because he's firstborn, and he called his name Enosh. Thereafter they were called after the name of the Lord. Okay, so they were the children of the Lord. Because if you believed in God, you're in his presence, you dwelt with him, walk with him, talk with him, all that sort of stuff, you are known as child of the Lord, or children of the Lord, sons of God. Okay, so all this alien poo-ha is just rubbish. Okay, it's all not Gnostic, conspiracy, UFOologist rubbish. Okay, we will prove that. Yeah, 426, the beginning of the line of the children of the Lord. Okay, so that's that holy line. That's this Christ would have originally came through, but something happened to mess that up, right? The old devil and his tricks. Okay, so we're going to go to the video again. So all this that they married their brothers and sisters is rubbish. Okay, later on when they excuse us, they had descendants, right? Noah's sons, etc., had descendants. Yeah, there might have been that going on, bigamy, incest, all that sort of stuff, but it was poo-pooed by God. It was against his precepts, etc., etc. So they outlawed it, because maybe they saw defects, children with club feet and all this sort of stuff. Okay, this kind of thing happens when the DNA, etc., is too closely, the blood is too closely related. Okay, so if you marry your first cousin, like Jerry Lee Lewis apparently did, and you have offspring, you might have some problems there. Okay, we're pretty sure she was his first cousin. I'm not too sure if she was the second, but yeah, that was the thing. That's why his career went down the toilet. He could have been that king of rock and roll. You know? Even Elvis knew that when he was in the army. He's like, he can have it all, bro. Yeah, but he messed up. So his dad said to him, well, you know, you're with Priscilla. She's only 14 or 15 at the time. Be careful, son. Don't be like Jerry Lee. You know, because once you do that and it gets spread like wildfire through the media, you're basically stuffed. Elvis loved touring. Okay, well, that sort of stuff, he loved it. And he didn't want to ruin his career because of that, so he listened to what his dad said. He's very, very careful. According to her book, Elvis and Me, she was pretty hot, wanting, you know, rough and tumble. But he said, no. I want to marry you, so stay chaste. But that's what she says, okay, that she was all hot and bothered and wanted him. But he said, no. But he played around with everybody else, the older woman, right? All that sort of stuff. There's a difference there, right? And possibly because he had her hanging around him and he was like treating her like a dolly, you know, dressing her up, beehive hair, like Amy Winehouse, you know, that sort of hair. People started to say, you know, ooh, something funny's going on here. But it was all kept under wraps because he was Elvis. So he said apparently to his Memphis Mafia sidekicks that he didn't really want to get married, that he was being forced to. So perhaps by her father, who was like a general or colonel or something in the army that he was in, as a GI in Germany, put pressure on him. You know, you're going to hang out with my daughter, make an honest woman of her, all this sort of stuff. It's an order, Presley. You know, that sort of stuff. So, yeah, possibly. We don't know. It's just what these Sonny West, Red West, all them claimed after he died. Sitting around in a bar and talking about it. Okay, so we're going back to this video. Okay, it may sound strange to us and even repugnant to us today. Okay, it's a thing you just don't do, but if people do that, part of their religion, part of their etc. Yeah, blah. Don't believe in that. Okay, so you don't marry your close relatives. Second or third, maybe cousin, fourth cousin, whatever, but not your first. So you don't have any mutations or defects. You're pretty much right there. The Bible tells us that Adam and Eve had many sons and daughters besides Cain and Abel. So that was after, right? And here's the evidence. Again, that after Cain left, then they got together, then they had more children. Okay, it's not in between the conversation. There's no mention of it. You can make it up as much as you like, but it's not in these original scriptures. That while God was talking to Cain, they had more children. Okay, it tells you here he took his wife again. Here's a later point, later time frame, and she became pregnant and gave birth, and she called his name Seth, a replacement son. Okay, and then after that, obviously they had more children, but by that time Cain was in the land of Nod, and he had a wife there, found a wife there. Okay, and where the heck did his wife come from? That's the question they're asking. Well, we're going to cover that next. Okay, in the Brita or Genesis 9. Okay, and this is after the flood. Okay, and the sons of Noah, they came out of the ark, and they were Shem, Ham, because the K is silent. Even in the Egyptian Metuneta, the K is silent, so it's Ham. In both languages, they're the same word, right? Because they were Semitic. They're from descendants of Noah's sons. Okay, or they might say Hem. Okay, so the sons of Noah that left the ark were Shem, Cam, and Japheth. Cam, or Ham, rather, became the father of Canaan. Okay, and then they went into this land, and that's why it was named that, after one of those sons. Noah had these 3 sons, and from them spread everyone on earth. All these human beings, right? Okay. So in the video, at a point, they are right that from them sprang many more sons and daughters, descendants, etc. And then Noah gets drunk and he curses his son, Ham's son, etc., etc. That's a curse from Noah, not from God. Yeah, but probably, yeah, okay, it's all cool. Yeah, God allowed it. Okay, and then you go to Genesis 10, and here's the lineage, genealogy list, or list of those lines, of those descendants, and who they became. And these are the birth records of the children of Noah: Shem, Ham, and Japheth, the 3 sons, to whom was born children after the flood. And it's disastrous floods in the Mesopotamian area alone. We have a book called The Timetables of History by Bernard Groen. So we can just grab that. We've done a video on this one before, and unfortunately it's only 10 other books, so we're going to get to it. It's called The Timetables of History. Okay, we'll just grab it. There's nothing else stuck to it. Page 3, we believe it is. The Timetables of History, the New Theory Revised Edition, the world famous reference that tells who did what when from 4000 BC to the present day. Now updated for the 1990s. So hopefully they did another version for this century. Okay. A horizontal linkage of people and events by Bernard Groen, based upon Werner Stein's Culture Fahrplan. That's German for whatever. Okay. And we believe it's on, page 3, column G, daily life. Disastrous floods in Mesopotamian region, minus 4,000 to 3,501. So we believe that that's what it was. There were disastrous floods in that region at that particular time, and the actual global or worldwide flood was that of the scientists, etc., that have proven that possibly, they've got these different theories, that a meteorite or asteroid from space came hurling to Earth. It was so fast, it caused great impact, and it started earthquakes, tidal waves, and wiped out all the dinosaurs and all life, all that sort of stuff. Okay, so yeah, you have a look at the Mesopotamian historical records, and you'll find that it says the same thing, that there were disastrous floods in Mesopotamia, in that region at that time period. And then you have the Egyptians, who have their true story or myth of Nut, who saved his people after the Nile flooded over, and he saved them by making this boat. He had this boat, and he put some animals on there and all these people and saved them, and they lived on. And apparently they found that supposedly original boat in one of the pyramids intact, the whole thing, either at Luxor or Saqqara. I'm not too sure exactly which location, but that's what we came across. Okay, so from these 3 sons, okay, were born descendants. The children of Japheth were Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Meshach, and Tiras. And to the children of Gomer were Ashkenazis, right, Jews, Rephath, and Togarmah. And the children of Javan were Elisha, Tarshish, and Kittim, and Rodanim. Javan is Greeks, supposedly. From there came the Greeks. and from these separated those that became the isle of the nations in their language, according to their culture and among their own people. And the children of Ham were Cush, okay, those in the Middle East, not the ones in Africa with the K, there's a difference there. Mizraim, footnote indicator, Put, and Canaan. And the children of Cush were Sheba, probably Bathsheba or something like that, maybe the later Ethiopians. Havilah, that's Kuwait, modern Kuwait today. Sabta, Ra'amah, and Sabteka. And the sons of Ra'amah were Sheba and Deran. Okay, so this Ramah may be in connection with that verse, and the children of Ramah wailed at the loss of their sons, and they couldn't be comforted. Maybe it's the same one, okay, which is in the New Testament or something like that, maybe, or maybe in the Old Testament, and so forth. And to Cush was born Nimrod, who is a great ancestor of the translator Victor N. Alexander from Mesopotamia, Syria, apparently. People have said, no, that can't be right. Well, you'd have to go and ask him, because that's what he stated in his translation project. He's got photos of his grandfather, etc., his father, somebody like that, and their name was Nimrod. So it was a generational thing, right, that they were named after him. Obviously, they probably would be. Yeah, there's always that chance, because being from Mesopotamia, Syria, you know, long bloodline. Apparently, we have a connection to, supposed to be of the lineage of Hannibal, right? And the Irish really came across a certain area, and there's these Celtics that were naked, all painted in blue, not Smurfs, but there's tribal tattoos all over them, all that sort of stuff, and they were nuts. They were wild men, and the Romans were like, oh no, so it's nutters, let's run away, we can't handle them, you know, they're just crazy. They were warriors, fierce, these Romans just couldn't handle them. Okay, they're lunatics, you know, all this sort of stuff. And savages, yeah. So they were in fear of them, apparently. Okay, so to Cush was born Nimrod, who began to be a giant of the earth. Very powerful. Okay, he's a king of Babylonia, all that sort of stuff, built cities. He was a lion-hearted giant before the Lord, so he's very powerful. Remember Richard the Lionheart, that great British king that did this and did that? It was sort of like that. That is why it is said, like Nimrod, a lion-hearted giant before the Lord. He obviously had a voice, was very powerful, etc., etc. And he was the head of his kingdom, Babylonia, which included Babylon, Erech, or modern-day Iraq, today, Akkad, and Kala in the land of Sumer. Remember where the all men gathered and they built that tower of Babel? From these lands there emerged the Ashurai, yeah, the Assyrians, who built Nineveh, and the towns of Rehoboth and Kala, and Rezin, the great city between Nineveh and Kala. The king of Rezin, with the house of Israel, eventually, I think it's 2 Kings, so the 19:6 or 6:19 or something like that, he summoned up these Israelites to attack the people of this certain town, the men of Judah, and they took over that city, and according to the scriptures, they dwelt there from that day forth. Okay, so, and to Mizraim were born Ludim, etc., and to Patrusum, Calushim, Cashluhim, from whom emerged the Philistines and the Cappadocians, and so forth and so forth. And down in the footnotes here, it has who they became. Okay, 10.2.1 literal Aramaic name, Germans. 10.2.2 literal Aramaic name, Anglos. 10.2.3 literal Aramaic name, Medes. 10.2.4 Aramaic name, Greeks. 10.25 literal Aramaic names. The last 3 names do not resemble any names that the translator was familiar with at that time, 2015 or whatever, or earlier. It would take some time or more research to find out the correct transliteration of the modern derivatives. Okay, then he says 10.6 literal Aramaic Egyptians. 10.10 literal Aramaic name, possibly where the name is Erech, the name Iraq came from. Although Iraqis are predominantly now Arabs, it's a very Muslim land, the name may have survived in the folklore of the minorities, the descendants that still inhabit the land of ancient Mesopotamia. Okay, it's 10.1 to 10.10. 10:1 to 10:10. Okay, so it's at this point. Okay, these are the Egyptians. Mitzrayim, the Egyptians. Canaan, Put and Canaan, right? So they would have eventually, the descendants would have eventually gone into those geographical locations and occupied it there. So maybe they become the indigenous people of that land. Okay, until maybe the Egyptians come along, or somebody else came along and invaded it and then took over. And then Abraham and his descendants went there and dwelt amongst those people in certain parts of the land. And the people that were there were the Hittites, the Jebusites, Electrolytes, etc., whatever it says here. Okay? In the footnotes, or up here. Okay, we're having a look again. To Canaan was born Sidon, his heir, that's his first son, the head of the rest, the descendants. And from them came the Hittites, the Jebusites, the Amorites, the Girgashites, the Hivites, Arkites, the Sinaites. They dwelled in the Sinai desert, right? And the Arvadites, the Zemarites, and the Hamathrites, and the Electrolytes, all that sort of stuff. See, notice on the end they all got ites. That's basically people, the Ish, okay? People of those, the descendants, the peoples. That's what it means. So you got Israelites, which means they're the people of Israel, descendants of Israel. And it goes on like that. Okay? Havilah, modern Kuwait, apparently. Not too sure about the Shiva. But, children of Aram, that's Arameans. Shem, children of Shem, the Shemites, the Semitics. Okay, there's the Ashurit, the Arpak Shaddai, where originally the Hebrews, one of their peoples, was called Eber, and then this guy, Japheth's great brother, was then known as the father of the Hebrews, the Awer. Okay, and it carries on. They all spoke the one dialect, and they met in the east, an empty spot in the land of Sumer or Shinar, and they settled there and built the Tower of Babel before God confused them with different languages and scattered them across that Near East, the geographical location. And these are descendants of Shem. To Shem, who lived 100 years, was born Arpachshad 2 years after the flood, etc., etc. And his line after the birth of Arpachshad was 500 years, and to him were born many sons and daughters. See, it's talking about his line. It's not saying that he was 500 years old. And it carries on like that, and it gets down to Eber, and his son was born to him, okay, etc. And then finally Abraham, Nahor, Terah, and Abraham. Okay. Okay, and further on, these. Okay, he's talking about Abraham and Jesus, Genesis 12, etc. And they went down to Egypt, but further up somewhere, maybe it's in a different chapter. Oh, here it is here. What's this? Brita or Genesis 10, 31. Oh, I'm in the right place. Okay, where are we? We lost it again. We just had it here, we just went past it. Oh, here we go. It is in 10. 10:21. And to Shem, Japheth's great brother, there were also born children. He became the father of all the children of passage. Footnote. So these are the Shemites, or the Semites. And the children of Shem were the Elamites, the Ashurai, were the Assyrians. These are descendants from him, right? The Arpak Shaddai, the Lotians, and the Arameans. So these three major descendants here became these major people, or these major people here became they were the descendants of Japheth's great brother Shem. Okay, so these are like the Judeans, the Hebrews, the Jews, the Israelites. Okay. But our chief ones that we're looking at are the Ashurit, the Assyrians, Aparshad, Dai, Hebrews, and the Arameans. Okay. All Semites. And the children of Aram were Uz, Hul, Gether, and Mash, and to Arpashgad was born Shelah, and to Shelah was born Eber. Footnote indicated there. 1021 literal Aramaic idiom or expression. Hebrews, that's what they were called. The Awer. 1024 literal Aramaic name, Hebrew. It comes from this name, Awer, to cross over. See, that's why you got to give the translator a bit of a break here. He made a slight mistake, probably blinked and didn't realise it. Someone who crosses over, implying a passage. Okay, like when he puts his glasses on to read it from the actual Brita in the original Aramaic, he probably blinked and didn't realise he'd done that. Yes, so give him a break. Okay, he didn't get away with that. Okay, and the whole earth was one language and everyone spoke the same dialect. Okay, so going back to the video to see what further they had to say. Okay, Seth fathered, and Adam fathered Seth 800 years, all this sort of stuff. He had sons and daughters, he had descendants. They had descendants, so he can deduce that Adam and Eve, blah, blah, blah. 9 children and possibly many more, among who Cain found his wife. No, come on. Okay, we just explained it, that he is banished from the presence of God and he went into the land of Nod. And they refer to Genesis 4:17. Let's have a look here. 4:17. That Cain went with his wife, his sister, took his sister and she was his wife and had children, all that sort of stuff, right? Okay, but that's total garbage. Because he gets banished from the presence of the Lord and settles in the land of the nomads, east of Eden. And Cain took his wife, in other words, he found him a wife there and had sex with her. Okay, and where did she come from then? Okay, go look at another chapter here. Okay, after the flood, Genesis 6, or Urete. Genesis 6, Ureta, the Hebrew version of the Epic of Gilgamesh, which is probably in the cuneiform or something like that. And while human beings began to multiply in the face of the earth, daughters were born to them. The sons of God, remember that lineage? This one here. Seth's son, Enosh's descendants, who were called on the name of the Lord, Maya Alaha or Maran Alaha, Il Hiye Asher Hiye. Okay? Which everybody else seems to call him Jehovah, Yahweh, Elohim, all this sort of stuff. They called on him, right? So they're basically children of the Lord, sons of God, not aliens, little green creatures and all that sort of stuff, all that conspiracy ufologist rubbish, Gnostic rubbish. Okay? So these children of God, or these sons of God, saw that the daughters of men, daughters of the human being, 6:2 literal Aramaic expression, daughters of the human being, not aliens, not Mork from Mork or anything like that, or Star Trek. The sons of God saw that the daughters of men were beautiful, and so they picked for themselves women whomever they pleased. And it wasn't the fallen angels that got kicked out of heaven, because if you look at scripture, these angels were cast into an abyss, a pit. They were chained there. These other ones were chained to the four corners of the earth, the Revelations, all this sort of stuff. Yeah. So the sons of God saw that the daughters of men, human beings, were beautiful, and so they picked for themselves women whomever they pleased. And the Lord said, my spirit does not reside in the human beings forever, or to the ends of the universe, right? Because he's just mortal, he's mere flesh. Okay? And his lifespan became 120 years. That's all he had left. Okay, before something big was going to go down. They'd be under the wrath of God, because he sees things before they happen, right? And they were giants in the earth in those ages. Yeah, they were giants in the earth in those ages. And even later, because the sons of God entered upon the daughters of men, and they were born to them aliens. It's not little green men or greys or anything like that, who were giants of universal fame or worldly fame. That's what Catholicism means. It's universal, it's global, it's worldly. Okay, so it covers the entire world. It's something that covers it's around the entire globe or world. Okay, so we're going to have a look at the footnotes here for that. Genesis 6 Ure Ta, the Hebrew version of the Epic of Gilgamesh. 6:2, literal Aramaic expression, daughters of the human being. Okay, so God wouldn't dwell them because they're flesh. He wouldn't dwell with them to the end of the universe. Okay, not all of them. Okay, and 6:3:2. Footnote, and the Lord said, my spirit does not reside in human beings forever because he is flesh, and his lifespan becomes 120 years. And they were giants. Okay, in that particular age or eon or era, immeasurable period. And to them were born, literal Aramaic idiom, 6:4:1:3, strange creatures, hybrid forms, monstrously large, Neanderthals. Okay, we don't believe they were Neanderthals because, as we said earlier, the bones and remains of these cavemen, gatherers, hunters, weren't found until centuries later in that particular valley in Germany, the Neander Valley. Okay, so there probably would have been Cro-Magnons, whatever, archaeology, science, etc. has discovered and stated through their evidence. And there were phony ones where some people try to put a human head on a monkey body and said, voila, we were apes. And then they got found out years later it was fake. Lucy was fake because we have the book, a magazine called The New Scientist that we picked up somewhere along the way. It actually said Lucy was fake. Maybe she was 3,000 years old supposedly, or 3 million years old, or whatever it was. But then they found another one after they found out that Lucy was fake, which was supposedly 4,000 years older than Lucy, and so forth. We've got that magazine around somewhere, but we just don't know exactly where it is. But we do have it. So they had these strange, freaky looking, really tall, big, massive hybrids. Okay, so the mixture of human and these Cro-Magnons, right? And then you look at the histories, and it says, the Cro-Magnon or whoever intermingled with the human beings who are faster, stronger, more intelligent, all that sort of stuff. They got together and they had these hybrids, and that's us today. Okay, so because they're too closely related, being created from God from the very first explanation in the Brita, okay, or the Genesis, made in the image of their likeness, in God's likeness, right? Okay, these are those who look like if they had his face, but they were cave dwellers, hunter-gatherers, all that sort of stuff. So these people left their rightful place in the presence of God, and they got with these people, right? These cave dweller hunter-gatherers who were bigger, bulkier, bigger heads, all that sort of stuff, bigger bodies, but slower in running because they're too bulky. And they probably produced giants. It's a hybrid crossbreed thing that went berserk, went wrong, right? So they might have been like 7 foot, 8 foot, something like that. These children of God might have been like 5 foot, 5'5" average. And they thought, wow, this guy's a giant. Because he's probably 6 foot, 7 foot, like a basketball player. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and all that sort of guys, 7 foot, Larry Bird, all that sort of stuff, really, really tall. So they thought, wow, that's a giant. But then they could possibly have been those giants of old, ogres and all that sort of stuff. Because we actually found that Nephilim, just quite by mistake, we never found it again, means ogres, like Shrek, but possibly not green, and having trumpet ears. Okay, something like that. Those mythical beasts, right? Ogres, one-eyed things, all that sort of stuff of the Greeks, mythology, all that sort of stuff. Okay, so it's further up, isn't it? 9 to 12. Okay, it's not that one. Further up, is it? Oh, here we go. No. Okay, we must be on the wrong chapter. Was it 5:8? Ah, here we go. It was 6. So these children of God, these sons of God, those of that holy line, that first holy line, turned their backs, they left their rightful places. That's what Scripture's talking about in the original ancient Ktav Ashurit, or Aramaic, Old Testament, that they left their rightful place in the presence of God. They turned their back on Him, and they chased these daughters of common man, ungodly man, unrighteous man, and they interbred with them. And from that, being too closely related, DNA, genetics wise, they had these hybrids, these strange creatures, these freaks, okay, not necessarily looking like half fish, half man, or that sort of stuff, you know, like, or a rock or something like that. They were just like strange, unusual, because they were really tall and huge, you know, maybe 12, 13 feet giant, or that sort of stuff. Okay, because there was supposedly a cave found in the Middle East, had this beard of the giant that Nathan in the Bible had killed. This brass beard was intact, is inside this cave, and apparently it's 13 feet long, all this sort of stuff. But you don't believe everything you see or read, right? Okay, whether it was true or not, we haven't really delved back into it, but yeah, they reckon it was true. They found it, this brass beard of this 13-foot giant that Nathan had killed. Maybe it's a friend of David in the Bible. He slew him. Okay, so 6. Okay, so, and then they just went crazy. Okay, no one could stop them. There was no cops, speedo cops or anything to say, hey, you can't do this and you can't do that. They just pushed them aside and probably donk them on the head with a big club or something and say, get lost. You know, and they did whatever they could think of, right? And God saw the earth's madness, okay, because the earth went mad before God, and the earth became full of abomination, that's unrighteousness, wickedness. And God saw the earth's madness as all flesh had lost its direction toward Him on earth, so they turned their back on Him. Right? That line, the children of God, they did that, left the rightful place, and that's what they did too. They turned their back on Him and got with these women because they were hot, okay, of these unrighteous beings, and they became like them. The offspring became like them, and then they just did whatever they wanted, right? However they wanted, with whoever they wanted, any way they wanted. And the Lord said, all flesh has gone mad before me, because the earth has been filled by abomination or wickedness and unrighteousness before them. Behold, or look, take note, I will abandon them to their madness together with you. So who would He be talking to? The other two in the triune, and also the angels probably. I will abandon them to their madness together with the earth. I'll leave them to do their thing, right, while I prepare something else. So He remembered Noah, and he was the only righteous man, him, his wife, their 3 sons and their wives. So He had mercy on them, etc. He wasn't going to knock them out or wipe them out. Make yourself an ark of wood, He says, from the root with curved chambers, etc., etc. That's what He said to Noah and his sons. Okay, no one else bothered to help them. He said, nah, get stuff, we're too busy doing this. And He's trying to warn them, all that sort of stuff, preaching to them, whatever. And no, they weren't the Jehovah's Witnesses. That's a load of junk that someone told us. That Adam and Eve, in their time, they had Jehovah's Witnesses. No, rubbish. And thus make the length of the ark 300 arms length, and its wide depth 50, etc., etc. Make ports for the ark, and blah, blah, blah. And behold, I shall bring a deluge of water over the face of the earth. He's not saying the entire world, to undo every form of living flesh under the sky, and so that everyone on earth is drowned in that particular region. Okay, because they hadn't spread out yet. They spread out across the Near East, etc., but they hadn't gone global. They hadn't gone down to Australia or New Zealand or the Pacific Islands. They hadn't migrated there yet. Okay, according to these texts. So in that massive geographical location, which is probably one massive land, hadn't yet, tectonic plates hadn't yet shifted, causing earthquakes, floods, changes in land, height, mass, and all that sort of stuff, as science will tell you, all that sort of stuff, right? Maybe that hadn't happened yet. So then Africa would have been part of that massive geographical location. Israel would have been, like this other guy said, Africa, Israel was Africa, all this sort of stuff. Just one landmass. They didn't have those titles. They were just this place, that place, where these people named the Aramaeans, or the Aram, or the Hittites, the Jebusites, were hanging out. They moved in and lived there, right? They inhabited it. It wasn't until later that somebody gave them those names: Africa, Israel, etc., etc., right? Canaan, Ethiopia, which is a Greek loan Latin word because of the ear on the end, Asia, all these ones with Asia, etc., on the end of it, they're all Greek loan words given them, right? So that's what they were called, right? Even the name Egyptus, that wasn't the name of that particular location in those days. Okay, nobody said, I'm an Egyptian from Egyptus or Latinicanicus or anything like that, right? None of that rubbish. It wasn't until centuries later, or some decades later, that they were given those names through these Greeks or who invaded it. It indicates Greek because that ear, that ik on the end is a Greek loanword. Okay, so it goes on about these wicked, abominable peoples. Okay, so it ends up flooding that geographical location, probably where they're all hanging out. The Euphrates overflowed, or those four rivers, the Nile probably, or this sort of stuff, and killed off all those people in that area. Say from Mesopotamia, Syria, etc., Armenia, all that location, all that area. Okay, and the result of the American Grand Canyon and all that sort of stuff could have been because of that other totally global flood, where supposedly a meteorite or whatever from space hit the earth so hard, such a great impact, it caused earthquakes, which caused floods, tidal waves, and wiped out all the dinosaurs, all that sort of stuff, right? At a later date. Okay, so I'm going to go back to this video, so they're incorrect there with that verse. Lovely paintings, eh? And of course Adam's all muscly, handsome, Eve's all blonde and pretty, yeah, with all white children, all this sort of stuff, right? Yeah, okay. So this had very important implications for life, etc., etc. We're all equal with God, women and men, etc., etc. Going on about Scripture, talking about Scripture. All human beings came from a single race. Yeah, these spiritual human beings, they are meant to be spiritual, of the descendants of Adam and Eve, not the Neanderthals. But later on we became mixed with the Neanderthals because they interbred, right? So we are the hybrids.